For many centuries in philosophy, the concept of happiness was directly seen as a feeling related to foolishness or even ignorance. Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Epictetus warned against seeking happiness in the external circumstances and instead cultivate apatheia, which is freedom from passions. This was probably due to the influences that the Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle had. Through Socrates, Plato talked about the incredible powers of temperance and how the masses often mistake pleasure for happiness, while true fulfillment actually comes from the pursuit of knowledge and the soul over the more mundane things of life. And Aristotle distinguished momentary pleasures from eudaimonia, a highest form of happiness achieved through virtue and rational activity rather than simple enjoyment. Adding to this discussion, St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas also linked true happiness to a connection with God, and giving the many centuries of domination and control of Christianity over European culture and its intellectual activities, ideas of denying the physical body and the pleasures it gives to make this connection with the divine were very dominant. Therefore, for many centuries, the Western culture was always, in a sense, denying happiness in momentary pleasures and adoring rationality and logic and the imaginative and superior processes of the mind, relating these first concepts as inferior to the second one. But then came the Germans, in a place and era where religion wasn't as heavy and powerful as it once was, where liberty overall was less censored compared to other countries of the time, and where its own intellectual movement was creating force, just like the Greeks and the Italians had their time. Now it was time for the Germans. Great names like Immanuel Kant, Goethe, Schiller, Hegel, and Schopenhauer were becoming more and more famous. And between all of them, there was a guy named Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, just like many of his inspirations, had this, let's say, lionesque force inside him, or more specifically, in his ideas. Being also a philologist, a person who studies text and languages, Nietzsche says how the word for culture or Kultur in German was derived from Latin, meaning literally to cultivate. Then, in his 1874 text Schopenhauer as Educator, Nietzsche criticized this millennial idea, especially on the image of the philosophers, as someone who didn't promote or cultivated that which is human inside him. In this case, this overpromotion of rationality, thinking, or more specifically, this repression over the human motivations that are intrinsic to us. In the genealogy of morals, he later expresses better this idea. We can no longer conceal from ourselves that which is expressed by all that willing which has taken its direction from the ascetic ideal. This hatred of the human, and even more of the animal, and more still of the material, this horror of the senses, of reason itself, this fear of happiness and beauty, this longing to getting away from all appearances, change, becoming, death, wishing from longing itself. All this means, let us dare to grasp it, a will to nothingness, an aversion to life, a rebellion against the most fundamental presuppositions of life. But it is and remains a will. Man would rather will nothingness than not will at all. But of course, both the philosophers and Christians have their reasons for valuing this source of ideas. After all, it can definitely be a fact of how much impulsiveness, not thinking straight, or taking time to plan and analyze certain situations in the sake of just acting upon them can, for many times, takes us to very bad situations, or at least situations that we don't find the same pleasures of expressing your own desires at will. For example, a person who impulsively decides to drive home after drinking alcohol may end up causing a car accident, harming themselves or other people as well. This impulsive act, driven by the desire for immediate gratification, leads to a negative outcome that could have been avoided with rational thought and consideration. Or in another case, imagine you have a friend that you've known for some time, and now you've developed some feelings towards this person. But then, in an act of just professing deep feelings too early or making grand gestures without considering the other person's feelings can lead to awkwardness or rejection even. These actions might stem from a desire for immediate gratification, but they can ultimately jeopardize the potential for a healthy relationship, therefore. So wouldn't it be better if we just hide our emotions for ourselves and put reason in the place? Well, as Nietzsche said, thinking or reasoning aren't very different from the concepts of emotion or other animalistic desires we could have. Because, after all, thinking, reasoning, or even repressing our feelings can also be natural acts and therefore become impulsive acts as well. If you don't understand this, then here is a test. Just stop thinking. Well, can you do it? Were you able to do it? Or here's a better question. For how long can you do it? Because even if you didn't think about anything at that time, can you really stop yourself from just thinking? If that was the case, fields of psychology and psychotherapy such as cognitive behaviorism wouldn't exist. Most mental disorders or psychological problems wouldn't be problems as well. If you could just stop thinking negative thoughts or stop making so many theories about relationships, society, and even about yourself. Theories and thoughts that most of the time can not only be wrong, but also be detrimental for the plans and goals and relationships you have or you want to have in life. Whether they are just having a very normal and healthy relationship with a partner, with your friends, with your parents, and so on, or having a regular job. If you didn't have so many thoughts, maybe things could be better for you, right? So why don't you just stop? He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time, because what Freud is stating here is how much of these impulsivities that we have, whether physical, emotional, or compulsive and obsessive thoughts and acts, tend to ooze outside because these were not their original forms, or at least the original ways they were intended to be expressed outside. For Freud, the repression of our real and true desires, we can say, is very detrimental not only to ourselves, but even to other people as well. In his studies of hysteria, Freud described how someone who may harbor deep romantic feelings for another, but due to the fear of rejection or social norms never express them openly, can cause in their body language through subtle gestures or even in their dreams and thoughts obsession, compulsion, or anxiety because of a thing they were ignoring. In this case, the romantic or other deeper feelings they had. To become crooked with physical pains, with emotional outbursts, even without realizing that the reason for why they are doing those things is actually because of other instincts, feelings, emotions, thoughts, or even dreams they don't want to, one, realize they have, or two, admit that they have those and to deal with the consequences of those. Therefore, just like following all the time with those animalistic desires of yours can get you in trouble, never following them can also get you to the same problems, or even worse, to unconscious problems, because now you don't even want to admit the reason why you're spending so much time cleaning your house, so much time obsessively working without caring for your friends and family. Realize why you're spending 16 hours straight just playing League of Legends and other video games. And the reason is you're actually ignoring other desires that you have. If you seal a door, a window opens. If you reject the expression of your desires, your inner and true desires, and reject what you truly want to have or really want in life, they will appear somewhere else, liking it or not. But of course, how to know what a person truly wants? Well, in psychoanalysis and analytical psychology even, the answer would be to analyze not only those behaviors we're having, once they can give us clues for those desires, but also to analyze our dreams, our thoughts, our ways of thinking, and of course, our actions that we are having. Even negative thoughts can tell you something about the true desires that you want. Why are you working so much? Why are you playing so many video games? Why are you procrastinating or watching so much porn or videos on YouTube and TikTok? What do those things actually mean? What do you gain from becoming obsessed with those things, or even with a person that you never actually met in real life? Well, those are answers only you can answer. And sometimes just keep doing the things you were doing before may not get you to this full realization or consciousness. And this is when some other philosophies can come at hand. But this will be an idea for another video. For now, if you're interested in uncovering your own unconscious, you can, of course, read and learn more about psychoanalysis and analytical psychology. If you're interested in a consultation in any of these approaches, you can check the link in the description and book a session with me. If you like this video, you can like it, subscribe, and wait for the next one that I will make. For now, thanks for watching and goodbye.